Welcome to yet another amazing episode of Divinity Connecting the Dots. We talk with amazing people on the show, and today I have two wonderful um, sportswomen, and they're both vegan, and I can't wait to introduce them to you. We will be connecting the dots between veganism, strength training, sports, public health, planetary health, and all of these topics and then more. I'll see you soon. Sahyuri, Lalime, and Ramona Cadogan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank
Good to
you.
be here.
Well, thank you so much to both of you to join us. And there's a little bit of a ping that's happening. I hope it doesn't happen too often, but I'm sure our conversation is just going to be amazing today. Sahyuri, tell us where you're joining us from. Ramona, where are you joining us from?
So I'm here in Brussels, Belgium.
Nice. This is awesome. And it's afternoon your time, I think.
Yeah. Yep. In the afternoon. It's a nice sunny day, so good change from the usual weather.
Beautiful. Ramona, you're in New York City, I think.
Yeah, I'm in Baldwin, New York, which is Nassau County. I'm about an hour away, a little over an hour away from New York City.
Great. Okay. And I'm in Boston, and it's a sunnier day than usual. So, okay, let's begin. So Yuri, my first question is to you, and a lot of these questions are, they're generic because they apply to both of you. So we'll take Sayuri first, and Ramona, then you can share with us your perspective as well. What drew you to a plant-based lifestyle?
So I think from a very young age, I was naturally inclined to a plant-based lifestyle, mainly because of some trauma that I suffered when I was young and experienced my mother passing away when I was, excuse me, around 8 years old. So I kind of became really sensitive to death and this idea that people disappear and how much pain it brings into people's lives. And the same thing applies, I think, for animals. If you think they're humans, animals, we're all beings, we all have feelings. And so I became really sensitive to death and decided I didn't want to be involved in bringing that upon any other beings if I could help it. So I think that's kind of what made me sensitive to plant-based diets in the first place, as well as a love for animals. My best friend growing up when I was little was my dog. So I've always had a very close and loving relationship with the animals in my life. So I just couldn't conceive of doing any harm to innocent creatures like that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing, and we're so sorry for your loss. Losing a source relationship is very hard, and especially in your formative years. You're very young when that happened. Even so, when it happens when we're older, it's difficult. I lost my father to the pandemic, and it has just been extremely hard. So my heart goes out to you. But in the wake of these traumatic events, which are neurophysiologically reshaping of our lives and of the ways we think, they often contribute to the transformation of our value system. And it seems something similar happened to you, where you realized the sensitivity towards all species, all living beings, and all sentient beings, and it drew you to plant-based living. Well, Sayuri, just as a quick follow-up question, did you experience any challenges when, as a young person, you decided not to have meat or dairy?
Well, it definitely, I waited quite a while to implement those changes in my life because I also have a bit of a guilt complex. So I don't like putting people out of their way. I like I don't like causing trouble for people. So I figured I didn't want to put my parents out of their way to make special meals for me and this and that. So I kind of waited a little bit until I was out of the house on my own to adopt fully this type of diet, a vegetarian diet, when I left home. So I certainly waited, but I definitely agree that you know, what happened to me in the past transformed my view of things and made me see the world in a different way than I would have normally had I not been through that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ramona, what made you try veganism or plant-based, however you identify?
Yes, I identify myself as vegan. I became vegan in 2006. I was vegetarian from 2000 up until 2006. And the reason why I switched over is because even as a vegetarian at that point, um, it's still not complete veganism. And I realized that overall, I chose veganism because I did not want to harm the animals. I realized by eating animals, doing dairy as a vegetarian, doing cheese as a vegetarian, even yogurt, that still um, is uh, causing harm to animals. And I realized that uh, I didn't want to do that anymore. And it wasn't a health issue that I went into veganism, it was an ethical choice. And then over a period of time, then when I got involved more and more deeper into fitness, then I promoted uh, veganism.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. You know, regardless of how we come to realize the sentience of other beings, and we change the fuel that fuels us, and that it doesn't need to bear violence and trauma for others. Regardless of how we come to it, the fact is that the three of us are here. We have come to it, you know, as three grown women. We have realized that we're not going to contribute anymore to the violence committed upon animals. I came to veganism, but actually whole food plant-based eating, before I identified myself as a vegan. I came to it for health reasons. So it's really interesting that even in just, you know, our in our, you know, conversation, the three of us have had three very different stories of how we came to connect um, with plant-based lifestyle. Um, Ramona, did you experience any challenges before 2000 and after 2006 when you decided to entirely give up animal products?
That's a good question. I guess the challenge would be with social issues, because a lot of my friends at the time were not vegan, and they couldn't understand why I meat. But then when I educated them why I went into veganism, some of them actually did decide to transfer over. Um, However, I don't make my friends because they're vegan or not vegan. I look at the whole person. So I'm a non-judgmental vegan. I'm not a militant a vegan. I don't force people to change a diet that they don't want to switch over to. And I pick people from where they're at.
Yeah, well, that's a new term, you know, non-judgmental vegan, and I'm gonna steal that from you. I'm gonna borrow that because sometimes when you don't even qualify the word vegan with with any such term, people just automatically assume that you're gonna judge them, you know, and I've had so many non-vegan friends and acquaintances, like whenever you hang out with them and you're out at dinner or something, and they would be like proactively without me even saying something, and they would say, but just for today, I'm probably just going to go with a salad, or somebody would be like in your face about, well, I don't know how you eat this, I'm just going to stick to my steak, or whatever it is that they want to have. So it's pretty interesting that the judgment happens anyway. And but when you say that you're a non-judgmental vegan, and that you're conscious about not letting that get in the way of your socializing and choosing friends, and hopefully that lack of judgment can also ease people over a period of time to understand why you're making the ethical choices and the nutritional choices that you're making. So that's great. um, so since both of you are sports persons, this, it just excites me to always be, to be talking to women in sport, and especially women in strength sport. um, I want to understand from you, Sayuri, first, and then we'll go to Ramona. Have you always been involved in physical fitness and sports? And like, were you the young, girl who was like always taking part in school sports meets and events and that sort of thing? Or did it happen to you much later?
Well, I definitely started later, although I will say that when I was young, I think I had athletic ability that just I never tapped into really at that age. But I remember in first and second grade, for example, being the fastest kid in my school for sprints and things like that, boys and girls. And also having like serious upper body strength for like a fourth grader, being able to pull myself up and hold myself under. It used to be like a hold for how long you could stay on top of the bar, is what we used to do in those physical fitness tests. So I remember being like extremely capable and also really liking that kind of stuff. Also played football with the guys like in fifth grade. But then I started getting into music and theater and kind of switched over into the arts going into high school and stuff. So really, I just started becoming getting into fitness and strength sports much later in my 20s. And actually, the first sport that I ever became involved in prior to that was skateboarding, which I would do during my university years. Skateboarding was the best, and then kind of got into fitness later on in my 20s from that point, and strength training later. So definitely a long process and not from a young age at all.
Yeah. Although you mentioned that you were the fastest sprinter, and
I was the fastest kid in my school in
wow,
those 2 years. Yeah.
wow. So, the body keeps the score and I mean it in a very different way, right? So there is like muscle memory that you may have had, and you were able to tap into it.
Yeah. I think there was some innate talent there that I just didn't get to really realize until later on. But um, yeah, so it was just something I got interested in other things and just never pursued it, but it was there.
And now it's there for the world to see.
Yeah.
And we'll come to that in a few minutes. Ramona, tell us your sporting history and background.
Yes. Well, at a young age, I started when I was age 5, when I took tap, ballet, toe, jazz. So I was very involved in that from, I would say, age 5 to age around 17. I've been very involved in doing ballet and just going to dance recitals. In school, I took up bowling, believe it or not. I wasn't didn't take any competitive sports in my school years. So then around the age of, I would say, 20, I joined a gym at age 20. And ever since then, I've been in the gym at different levels. When I first started the gym, it was just basically playing with the weights. I became a certified personal trainer around, I would say, around 25, something around those lines. Yeah. Um, and I would do Pilates classes. I've taken classes like step classes, pump classes, all different classes that you can think of. I did that for a long, long time. I would say from early 20 to like about say 40, something around line, right? Then I did Spartan races, even in my early 40s, Spartan race, Warrior Dash. Those are more like circuit type of extreme sports. And I think I got prepared for that because I did prior to that a lot of the other sports. So I didn't need to train for that because I'm a personal trainer, so I was able to get into that. And it felt good. It felt good. I love those types of races. Then I transitioned into a little bit of CrossFit, very short term course, about maybe 5 months before I went into weightlifting. I love weightlifting aspect of sport. So the snatch, the clean and jerk, and I've been competing in Olympic weightlifting as a masters athlete since my first competition was in 2015. Started lifting in 2013. 2013, I started just with the
Right.
and yeah, been fabulous.
Yeah. Ramona, I am hearing a little bit of an echo. So when you speak, I don't know if you can hear it, Sahyuri, but when Ramona speaks, sometimes there is an echo and her voice is choppy. Um, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, yeah, there you go. There is a ping. So I'm gonna mute your mic, Ramona, and see if it disappears. So it does, but I'm gonna continue. And when we come to you, Ramona, I request you to unmute yourself and then speak. Okay? So it's very interesting, Ramona, that you mentioned about how and you too, Sayuri, both of you spoke about how you were initially interested in um, performance arts, and like theater and drama and dance and those sorts of things. And then over a period of time, especially in your 20s, both of you discovered that fitness could be a part of your life. And then you just devoted yourselves to it and went on to, as Ramona explained to us, just had that initial fitness build up, and then you guys took it to an amazing competitive level. So Yuri, my next question to you is, um, what is what is it that you do? Like, what type of sport? Like, do you lift? Like, there are just so many different types of lifts that people do, and weight training and then so on. I'm a complete novice when it comes to this vocabulary. So please educate us on what type of uh, lifting do you do, and what does that mean, even when you talk about it. And Ramona, then we'll ask you about what is it that you do and describe to us.
So what I do is a sport called powerlifting. So it's basically 3 movements: squat, bench, and deadlift. So 3 movements that pretty much you see people doing in the gym all the time, which makes it a really good sport that has kind of a lower barrier to entry. So pretty much anyone can do it, any age. It's like fundamental strength movements. So the powerlifting, the competitions, you compete in all 3 movements. So you have 3 tries basically of each movement, and however the heaviest amount that you can lift is, in each of those is added up to a total. So your goal is basically just to lift as heavy as possible for all of these 3 movements.
Okay, well, thank you so much for explaining that. And so you mentioned squats.
Yep.
What
Bench
else?
press.
Bench press.
Yeah, the real bro exercise, you see all the guys in the gym, they're always benching. That's number 2. And then we've got deadlift as the third, which is the one you just lift the weight off the floor up to your hips.
Okay. Wow. That sounds dangerous.
Very usually it's a very good, they're all very good exercises for building strength and keeping the body in good condition. Of course, if you go to the extreme in any sport, you're going to have more danger for, you might have more danger involved there, but that's the risk that you take when you're competing at a high level. But generally speaking, they're very good, safe exercises if you do them properly.
Right. Absolutely. And I want to ask you, and I'm sure when I do, both of you will have so much to say about it, is like women and strength training. I don't want to look all bulked up and like big and all of those things. And I wonder whether it's societal conditioning for women to, make them want to look delicate, or overly delicate. And so if they start to put on any sort of muscle, it goes against the grain of that societal conditioning. But that's a huge topic. So I want to come back to that. Ramona, what is it that you do? Yeah, you can unmute yourself.
Yes. So in Olympic weightlifting, it consists of the snatch and the clean and jerk. The snatch is 1 lift. The clean and jerk is 2 lifts. And in competitions, they give you 3 tries in both the snatch and in the clean and jerk. And what they do is that they take the highest one from each lift and give you your total. So whoever has the highest total obviously wins. And it's in powerlifting, we incorporate squats, back squats. We do deadlifts also in Olympic weightlifting to help us get stronger in those moves. And sometimes we do bench press. The difference between powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting is in Olympic weightlifting, it's more of an agility, fast, mobility sport. And I competed in one powerlifting competition and I really enjoyed it, as well. So Olympic weightlifting is different in the ways I just mentioned.
Okay, so just so for my clarity, Sahyuri, you are a power lifter.
Yeah.
And Ramona is an Olympic weightlifter.
Yeah. So also, basically, a difference between powerlifting and weightlifting is that weightlifting is a sport in the Olympics and powerlifting is not. So powerlifting has its own federation and is involved in some other things like the World Games, which is kind of an Olympics for non-Olympic sports, but we do not have a place in the Olympics.
And why do you think that's the case? Do you have a point of view on that?
There's such a history there, but I think it has to do with powerlifting being a very, there are so many different federations. So it's kind of not organized to where, it's one federation sending people this and that. And also, I think some substance abuse issues, which maybe you also find in Olympic weightlifting, but for whatever reason, yeah, I think there are a lot of different reasons, but those are maybe the main 2. But it's definitely they've been trying to get into the Olympics for a while, but it so far hasn't worked out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you for explaining that to me. I'm just like, this is so educational, powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah.
And okay, let's talk about women who lift weights. Leave alone like power lifters and Olympic weightlifters like you, but just women who lift weights. And Why do you think there are perceptions, and sometimes negative perceptions, like, and did you experience anything like that, or are you aware that such perceptions do exist?
Do you want to go first, Ramona?
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, definitely. I just went in there. I know what I want to do. I didn't let anyone. I have my own mind, my own ambitions. I know what goals I'm going after, and I know what the expectations are. And I know that I feel strong. I feel, it's a whole different physique type of appearance and look, and I did the sport. I'm doing the sport because I want to show women that you could be strong.
Hmm.
You could do it at any age. Um, and also, I have a little injury where I had an ACL and medial meniscus tear. Actually, it's a complete tear that I had at the ending of August of last year. And so I was able to see a Feldenkrais specialist in New York City that knows how to work with athletes. He himself is a fencer and had a tear as well, major tear. And um, I'm overcoming it. I'm overcoming it big time. I'm lifting heavy weights. I am able to compete at the Masters Nationals, which is a week from today, believe it or not, in Salt Lake City, Utah. And so that's why I'm lifting. I'm lifting to prove that you could do it with a handicap. I'm doing it for uh, veganism and in for empowerment. Empowerment.
Yeah, yeah, that very well said, and it actually helps reframe the tone of my question, because it's like, what about perceptions? What about women who want to be strong, and that overt, explicit demonstration or reflection of that strength through our bodies? And the patriarchy would have us believe so many different things. But Sayuri, your perspective on women who lift, and certain perceptions that might exist.
Well, I think times are changing now, and it's becoming more um, popular for women to lift, especially younger women. Lots of empowerment there, I think. But in the past, certainly, there was more of an expectation that women didn't do this kind of stuff, and you can see that. I work in a gym as well, and I tend to work with older women clients who have never done any kind of training before in their lives, and they always tell me, I don't want to look like you, like they're scared. They don't want to look like me. But the thing is, one thing that you have to remember is that yeah, if you train like I do, you might gain muscle this way, but your average person who's doing strength training, incorporating that into their lives, is not going to look like I look. But not that it's a negative thing, but that's definitely something that I've come across, specifically with older generations who
Mhm.
have grown up in this atmosphere where it wasn't as acceptable socially to be muscular, and that was not considered attractive at all, which I think is changing now.
Yes, and thankfully it is changing, and women such as you're helping change that narrative for other women, especially the younger generation that's coming up, and for them to really understand that as a woman you can own your strength, and that there are different ways in which you can reflect your strength, and your body is one way where you can embrace it and reflect it. And what's more, you have a conditioned body, you feel good, you're resistant to injury from day to day work, and so on, and you can compete, and you can be competitive in these things. So powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting, I'm starting to understand the difference between the two. You've shared with me, your perception on, women who lift. Now there's the other layer. You're not just women who are lifting, you're vegan women who are lifting. Where do you get your protein from, ladies?
Oh, man.
So let's go with you
How
first.
many times have we been asked that question? Oh gosh. Well, one thing I just wanted to add about being a woman as well in strength sports is that it becomes something that's outside of appearance after a while. It becomes more that you see what you can do and your goal becomes not to look a certain way, but to perform a certain way, which I think is magical about strength and these strength sports is it becomes about what you can do and not how you look. So I think that's important to also note, and something that I've seen firsthand with women who've started strength training is that they appreciate their bodies in a different way.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for bringing that up because, we do so much for appearances. I mean, our whole culture and society is about body image and so on. We have so many young women, distressed because of negative body image. Just the other day, I was looking at usage of filters on Instagram and TikTok. Completely causing body dysmorphia and image dysmorphia for our young women around. And when we're looking at that dysmorphic sort of cloud that descends upon young people, it just stresses them out to a very high degree. And what you're really talking about is that after a certain point, with powerlifting or with Olympic weightlifting or with fitness in general, it goes beyond the appearance. It becomes about performance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that shift is I'm sure it does wonders for your body. It does wonders for your mental health. So let me actually keep the vegan question to a bit later since we're talking about it. And Sahyuri, I'm so glad you brought it up. Tell me about mental fitness that you may have experienced as a derivative of your physical fitness. Is there a connection?
Well, I definitely think that you need to be, it does reinforce your mental strength because, um, you get to the gym on days you don't want to go. You go anyway because you have a certain goal in mind. So it definitely not only reinforces your discipline, but also then undertaking challenges, lifting a weight that you've never lifted before. It takes a lot of mental capacity, mental strength to prepare yourself for the unknown. Because a lot of the time we can just hide away from things that are scary or unknown. And I think that's one of the great things about lifting is that it forces you to confront that on a regular basis. So you're always challenging yourself a little bit more every single time you step in the gym. So that definitely requires a lot of mental fortitude and has brought a lot of confidence as well, I think, to in my own case, feeling more sure of myself and my abilities. So it definitely has had profound effect on overall my how I think about myself and what I'm capable of.
Wow, beautifully said. Thank you. That's gonna stay. That's gonna stay with me. And the difference, the distinction that you made between appearance and performance. I mean, that's just such a wonderful way of putting it. Ramona, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, my thoughts in terms of it's with mental, you just go in there knowing that you can do it, having that belief system and trusting the process, and just going in there and just being grateful that you're in that moment, in that setting. Don't think too much, you know, that you've put in the training. You have a great coach that is guiding you, and you're learning and growing every time you step out on that platform, and you're just feeling the moment, feeling the presence, and just doing it. And it becomes automatic through your muscle memory and through it's just something that there's no need to explain.
I hear you. And it actually makes me think about somatics so much. Like there is a certain embodiment, and it's you're embodying your belief. You're living your belief. You're performing your belief in the goal that you've set, the target that you've set, and you're completely immersed in it. And there is a flow state that maybe both of you have experienced, and writers experience that, poets experience that, dancers experience that, but then it's very different when it's strength sports, or even with team sports, you can get into a flow state, which is very good for mental health and focus. Let's talk about veganism, that layer that tends to complicate a lot of different things. It simplifies, health, and it simplifies our ethic, and it simplifies our value system, and obviously simplifies life for animals. But it complicates some other things, especially for vegan, sportswomen like yourselves. So, Sahyuri, where do you get your protein from?
So protein is definitely important, and it's something that I really pay attention to, because I find that for myself, and it can be largely personal, but for myself, I do better when I'm on a high protein diet. So I really strive to get as much protein as I can, and through different sources. I don't shy away from non-whole food plant-based protein sources. I'll eat pretty much anything, and especially if it's going to give me sometimes it can be hard when you're just eating things like rice and beans and grains and this and that to get the amount of protein that you really need. So I don't shy away from using fake meats, things like that. I'll incorporate those: TVP, tofu, tempeh, seitan. I really just try to put a little bit of everything into my daily routine, as well as protein powders. So between all of that, I really am. It's a bit of work. I think a bit more work than obviously if you're on a traditional meat-based diet where you've grown up eating that way. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but I think once you get the hang of it, it's something you need to pay attention to, but you get used to how you should be eating in order to drive your performance.
Well, thank you for that. Ramona.
Yes, yes. So I get my protein. I do wheatgrass. I do wheatgrass. I do a lot of microgreens, sunflower seeds, some nuts and seeds as well. In terms of the microgreens, sunflower, pea, uh, peas as well, which is they're phenomenal. Broccoli sprouts. I get my protein from that. I do amino acids. I do take protein powders. Sometimes a complex protein that has protein and carbohydrates together, like the lentils and different types of beans. I do that route. I don't do any more fake meat anymore because I feel that um, it's either meat or to no meat. That's how I feel. I mean, everybody's different. Like I said, I don't judge. I have friends and athletes that I know that do eat fake meat, but I chose not to do that anymore, and I feel that a more cleaner way of doing veganism. But that's me.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
And
Please.
yeah, so that's why I feel that way I'm distinguishing myself. If I want to go back to eating meat, then I'll eat the real meat. Since I'm completely against eating meat, I would say for the last probably 2 years now, 2 or 3 years now, about approximately 2 years, I would say, I stopped eating the different types of fake meats. I just realized that I want to go deeper into my vegan, even become more pure. At one point, I did raw veganism at some point, and I when I transferred over into like heavy duty powerlifting, sports, and weightlifting, I realized being raw was not really helping me that much. But then there are people that are raw vegans that are powerlifters that also do a weightlifting too, and they're very inspiring. So there's different levels and different layers of how people are successful and are thriving in veganism, and that's why it's so exciting. And you have to do what's right for your body and what's right for your belief system.
Wow, Ramona, that just blew me away. I mean, both of you ladies, it's just one insight and after the other. There's a lot that you said that you packed into what you said. It's number one, yes, it's exciting. There are different layers to it, and depending on your belief system, even within veganism, and depending on your goals within strength training, whether you're just a regular person who's non-competitive and just wants to have a good conditioned body, to people like yourselves who want to compete, there's so many different permutations and combinations of how you deploy protein to your benefit and advantage. So that's really interesting. I want to quickly pull up some graphics, to showcase how you ladies really look like. This is Sahyuri, plant powered, body strong, mind unchained.
Yes.
And it's great because we are streaming on Unchained TV. So Kaylin Barbell, that's your barbell, that is your business, right? Sahyuri. And I want to quickly sort of shift gears, and then bringing this image up. You're saying I really have to credit punk rock as a huge influence in increasing my awareness of the evils of animal using systems and inspiring me to adopt this lifestyle. Up the punks.
Yes.
Tell
Indeed.
us about that.
So I mentioned that I had been vegetarian at first. When I went to university, was the first time I really encountered vegans, and they were punk rockers, like hardcore punks. And it's something that's been part of the community of particularly hardcore and crust punk since the 70s, since its creation, of bands and individuals who have had their eyes wide open, seeing all of these things. And punk rock at its base is about fighting as an individual against corrupt systems.
Yeah.
So of course you have this aspect of all these animal systems and these punk rockers who believed it was wrong. So that's really where I became aware of veganism for the first time, was through these people. And it continues to be, I think, one of the larger, if you look at proportionally how many people are vegetarian or vegan in these scenes, it's quite a large number of them. So it's still alive and well, and it's definitely been a big influence on me.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because you're right, Ramona. Well, the hip hop scene has so many vegans too, right? And there are just so many Black and brown influencers that we have out here in the States who are vocally talking about how veganism is anti-speciesism, it's anti-colonialism. There are intersectional aspects of it that they're talking about, which is anti-corruption, anti-systemic racism, and so on. I mean, it's just the beauty of music as a vehicle to be able to influence. And Sayuri, you experienced something similar through punk rock.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very powerful. And what drew me to punk rock in the first place was feeling like an outsider. Also, not being very confident back in those days when I was younger, being bullied in school and stuff like that for how I looked, because I grew up in kind of a very white suburban area where I was one of the few ethnic kids. So I'm half Japanese. So got made fun of a lot. And so punk rock was kind of one of the outlets for me where I found a group of misfits, of people who didn't belong with the rest of the people and who shared a lot of common interests. So really for me, it's life-changing, this type of music, and it's the kind of thing that I'm still involved in today, that I still love, and is such a primal aspect of also who I am and the community, the people that I can interact with. And so yeah, it's definitely one of the most important aspects of my life, I say, outside of powerlifting and family and friends.
And how do you continue to interact with that community in Brussels?
Going to shows mostly here locally. Also just keeping in touch with my friends that I've made over the years in various cities. So, and then of course spreading the music, keep listening, and trying to promote it as much as I can on my various social media channels, helping to get the word out. And what's cool is there are also a lot of bands that do talk about these issues in their music. So so I try also to draw attention to that when I can.
Yeah, yeah. And then, Ramona, do you want to share something about this? Because you've been a musician through your school years, and does music play a role in what you're doing right now and in your veganism?
Yeah, I would say yes, because I enjoy a variety of different types of music, and I like, how I've been to like outdoor concerts, um, like Vegan Dale. I don't know if you heard of Vegan Dale. Vegan Dale. Yes, I know they have every time when I go to Vegan Dale, they usually have it on Randos Island in New York. They have a lot of vegan rappers that come out and just sing away and about their beliefs and how they feel about veganism, and how it's positive for the environment, for the human body, for your health, justice. So I really like that when they try to explain how veganism is helpful and beneficial to the planet through their music. I really enjoy that.
Yes, absolutely. And it's very healing, to
Yes,
actually,
therapeutic.
it's
Yes.
very therapeutic because, and as both of you have mentioned, music is visceral. It's the somatic power of, music is just immense. And I'm actually, let me actually share this with you guys while we're talking. I'm reading this book called Anchored by Deb Dana. She's a therapist, and she speaks about how to befriend your nervous system using polyvagal theory. And polyvagal theory is all about the gut-brain axis and the vasovagal system that we have inside of our bodies, and it's about somatics. And since you guys are big into like touching and feeling and performing, and both of you individually have exposed yourself to such different, somatic modalities, if I can call them, of dance and performing arts, and then now competitive, powerlifting and strength, Olympic weightlifting and strength training and so on. It just does wonders for your body, and it does wonders for your mental health. Ramona, in one of the conversations we had before, you had brought up about ACL and your healing from ACL. I'm going to share with our viewers about this method that you've mentioned has helped you. Feldenkrais, is that how it's pronounced? And talk to us a little bit about this, and I will bring this graphic up again for.
The Feldenkrais method. I'm been very blessed to have Marek. He's the director of the one in New York City, Feldenkrais, New York City. And it's wonderful. It's helped me using your neuromuscular awareness to just be in tune with how to move better. Like, for instance, see my knees. I don't know if you see, if I do like this, we're all used to having our knees come in as females to keep it in. That's not good for, even if you have a healthy knee, it's not good. You have to have it out, more out. And when you stand up, you want to stand up going out. Don't stand up going in. Because so it's a preventative to help you move better, move properly. Because people I've known have taken yoga, have done different exercises, and they're great trainers out there. But a lot of them, are doing things incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why a lot of people have a lot of injuries in gyms, because some of them are not being watched, or they're just doing things on their own. They just come in and do things on their own, right? And I feel that with the Feldenkrais method, being in tune with your own body, it helps you become in tune to your own senses, your own awareness.
Okay.
And then the techniques they use around that, if you have an injury or you're preventing an injury, is just really on point. I mean, it's so different. It's just very different. It's very structured in a way where you are going to be more mobile, but be more empowered.
Right.
And yeah, definitely at some point with my ACL, if it was something where I was in pain, I don't have any pain at all. I was very fortunate, even though I tore it completely. People ask me, well, how come you don't have any pain? I mean, everybody's different. If I had major pain, then I would choose to have the surgery. My surgeon said to me that, oh, if you're going to compete in weightlifting, you have to have the surgery. If you don't have the surgery, then you won't be able to do the snatch, the this and the that. And I proved him wrong. I am snatching. I am clean and jerking. I am 100% sure that if I didn't find this method, I would probably would have created more damage to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So basically, when my Feldenkrais specialist saw when I fell off the box, I was very unstable, and then he was showing me, how I should have done it. But obviously, the injury happened. But at least so in our training sessions, we do it the wrong way. And so I'm aware of this is how you not to do it, and the right way, so your body knows how to do it right.
Got it. Yes. So I want to also bring up this other thing about somology, and the science of the living body. And you've spoken about it before, how you found Tyrone. It's advanced body work and movement processes. Now, it enhances intelligence and improves performance, and so on. Now, talk to me a little bit about somology and Feldenkrais. Like, are they the same thing? Are they different? What are the differences? And how have they benefited you in your work?
Yes, thank you so much. The somology I also do as well. And that is also connected somewhat to Feldenkrais. It's more about feeling right now. How's my back feeling? How's it feeling? How are my legs feeling? Okay. Then also he would watch me while I'm walking, and then he would say, okay, which leg feels more stable, more anchored? And then the leg that's not anchored or stable, right? Then he says, okay, I see that your knee is kind of, he saw, like Tyrone, he saw that one of my videos, my knee was slightly twisted. So I did a procedure with him. I went to him and he kind of untwisted it with his hands, not on my knee, but he went below my knee and on my thigh to make adjustments, because I had my knee pointed in a way where it was more in. So he kind of moved it where now my knee is more pointing out to beyond my pinky toe. You don't want the knee to be pointed to your big toe or before the big toe, because that's more proning inward.
Okay.
So he did some movements to make my knee pointing where it's pointing either at the pinky toe more so or more to the right. And he knows that through by looking at me and watching how I walk and making those adjustments.
Wow, those are incredible experiences, and you're fortunate to have such amazing experts around you in New York City. I found myself looking at my knee, and I, like I was sitting with one knee crossed over the other, and I immediately brought it back, and I'm like, no, I'm going to sit like how Ramona sits. So Yuri, tell us if you've had any experiences, with such techniques and technology, such as Feldenkrais or somology, or if there's any other. I bet there are just so many different.
Well, what we have here in Belgium, it's interesting. We have some kind of physical therapists, right? Kind of your traditional kine. We call them kines here. So physical therapists, and then there's another group called osteopaths, who are similar to kind of what you were describing, Ramona, where they will correct kind of your organs, how your body is positioned. They'll make corrections if you suffer, if I have some sudden back pain or something like that, maybe something has shifted. So I'll go to the osteopath and they'll kind of be able to look and see and feel what is going on and if there's anything that they can do to correct it. So I think it's kind of interesting. It's more of a medical, not a procedure, but if something, you get injured, or even a preventative for injury, to go to an osteopath, and then they can kind of make corrections according to how they see you walking, or how everything's lining up. So I figured that's a little bit like that. So and of course, when you're doing these training so hard and doing these types of things, things happen. You get little tweaks here and there, and it can be helpful to have somebody like that who can help you get back to where you need to be and back to training. So I definitely have one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So, Sahyuri, I'm going to ask you first, and then we'll go to Ramona. What are your greatest powerlifting achievements so far? Brag to us, viewers. Tell us what vegan sportswomen can do.
Well, so I started powerlifting when I was a little bit older. So when I did my first competition when I was 33, I think. And my biggest accomplishment so far is the last 4 years I've been the #1 woman in Belgium from all weight classes. So we're not just talking my weight class, which is 60. So the powerlifting and weightlifting, we both have a weight class. It's weight class divided into weight classes.
Okay.
So my class is 63, but I've won Belgian championships amongst all of the classes of women. So the last 4 years I've been #1. And I've also participated in world championships with the IPF and European championships as well. So looking to up my performances a bit there. So lots of international goals. But yeah, so far nothing too exciting to report on that front other than being there and having the opportunity.
This is super exciting. You're the number one woman, in all of these fields and these categories that you mentioned. Congratulations, and thank you for doing this for the vegan movement and for women everywhere. Ramona.
Yes. So I've taken 2 gold medals at the Pan Am Games in 2018 and in 2019. 2018 was in Gaspé, Quebec, in Canada. In 2019, I took it in Orlando, Florida. 2020, I did not compete. Last year, I took second at the Pan Am Games. Last year, that was right before my injury. And now I'm going to be competing next Friday at the Masters Nationals in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm going there just to have fun and enjoy their experience, have no expectations. I feel it. I know I'm ready to do my best. And then I plan to do other competitions by the Pan Am Games again. I'll be in Puerto Rico. We have another Masters Championship, and the World Championships is in December. I've taken second at the World Cup in 2019. I've taken second at the Masters Nationals in 2016. I won the Arnold in 2019 in Columbus, Ohio. Took two gold medals in the silver at the Arnold Championships, and it's called the American Open. That was in 2019. And one other local meets, Masters Athlete local championships as well. So I'm coming off an injury, and I'm looking to just be in the moment and be happy with my performance and do well.
Well, wow, that is an impressive list. We wish you all the best with your healing, so that you can continue to make the movement proud and make the country proud as well, and make all women everywhere proud with all these stunning achievements. It's been a sheer pleasure talking with both of you, Sahyuri, Lalime, and Ramona Cadogan. This has been a really inspirational experience for me. Now, if people were to work with you, collaborate with you, or reach you, or just know about your work, where can they find you? Very quickly, if you can tell us, Sahyuri, and then Ramona.
Yeah, sure. I'm mostly on Instagram at sci-fi, so it's sahy.fi, and on my website, kaylinbarbell.com.
Thank you.
Yes, so I am also on Instagram, and you would find me at NY Ambassador, Teen Green 63 kg. I'm also part of the Plant Build team that I just got on. That's something, and I'm going to be competing at Mr. Olympia in October. So I'm happy that they have me on board. I'm very grateful to be on the Plant Build team. So you can also find me on the Plant Build team on Facebook as well.
Well, that's great. So to all our viewers, I'm sure they really, really enjoyed, learning about your vegan stories, about your sporting stories, about the competitive performance that you guys have been doing. It has been amazing talking to both of you. Thank you so much for being with us, Sahyuri and Ramona.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you.